What was something you saw you were definitely not supposed to see? As a middle schooler, I picked up a book at the library, flipped through the pages and found an application for a replacement birth certificate for some old man. It had every detail about his personal identification on it, so naturally I took it home thinking, I'll just hold on to this in case I ever need to assume a fake identity by pretending to be an 80-year-old man and flee the country. My mom found it and had to explain to me that no, we don't steal people's identities. Saw a Homer Simpson keychain in my mom's desk drawer. Didn't say anything. 2 weeks later it's in my Christmas stocking and she goes, wow, how did Santa know how much you like the Simpsons? That's how I figured out Santa must have been sleeping with my mom. Freshman year of college, walk into the kitchen area late at night and there's my girlfriend sitting on the counter, making out with one of my good friends. I just left quietly without them noticing and cut off all contact with both of them. So, pretty sure I wasn't supposed to see that. Saw them both together about 20 years later at Costco, so I guess it worked out for them. So I'm fresh out of school and taking a gap year before starting university. I'd managed to get a job working for the USAF at an airbase in the United Kingdom. Details of the job aren't important. So, about 2 AM on this particular night in early 1988, the runway lights that are normally off come on briefly, for perhaps 30 seconds then go off. That's when I hear something clearly landing on the runway, and off to the right of the runway one of the larger hangars opens its doors. In the pitch black, the light from that hangar is quite spectacular. That's when I see it. A small black triangular aircraft rolls straight into that hangar and within seconds the doors close behind it. This was my honest thought when I saw that. I was definitely not supposed to have seen that. I put my cigarette, hey, I was young and dumb, out and walked back into my building. A few weeks later we got our first pictures of the F-117 Nighthawk, followed by a confirmation it existed. I smiled a little and thought to myself, already knew about that. Not me but a co-worker several months before I started at the company. Big boss man comes back from a site visit weekend at his cabin not too far from site. Has someone burn all photos from his camera to a CD and makes a couple of copies. One copy is with my co-worker and another guy looking at photos from site. Suddenly the photos of the site trip ends and there are topless photos of Big Boss Man's wife at their cabin on the disc. But wait, there's a twist. Another copy of the same set of photos was currently in the boardroom PC where Big Boss Man is showing photos to the client. My co-worker doesn't know what to do, tells our lead administrative assistant. She confidently marches into the boardroom and ejects the disk, interrupting the meeting. Big Boss Man asks, "What are you doing?" She simply says, "There's a problem with the disk," and leaves. I was working part-time at a library for a school subject. One day, they made me enter the data for new books into the library's computer system. As I worked, I did something, don't know what, that made Windows Outlook display onto the PC screen, along with some emails by the librarians directed to my teacher and to the other librarians. The emails basically said that I was really good at my job and very hardworking, and that the collaboration would be very beneficial both for me and them. I wasn't supposed to read those messages, but they made me feel really happy. When I started a new job, someone had left a bunch of human resources files on the computer I was given. I opened one up, not sure what it was, and I got to see every employee's salary in the company. Even the CEO the next day, it was gone. My boss realized his mistake and logged into my system and deleted the files. It was a memorable experience. Went to visit Grandma and Grandpa. The front door was locked, so I went around through the back and found them gardening totally naked. When I was 14 and friend hosted a birthday party at his house with all the parents invited. Needed to use the restroom but the main one was occupied, so my friend told me I can use the one in his mom's bedroom. As I walked up to the door I could hear somebody in there, so I decided to wait until whoever was in there was finished. A good 10 minutes later, my friend's mom, who was hosting the party, and another good friend's stepfather walk out and see me standing there all confused. They asked what I was doing there and I just said I was waiting to use the bathroom. Surprisingly they played it cool and just said I can use it now and walked off. I was about 8 or 9 and my parents were going to be out of town, so they had me and siblings stay with the family from our church. Once we got to the house, which was really nice by the way, they had one rule. You can play wherever you want but the basement is off limits. Me being the little brat I was snuck down there first chance I got and was supremely disappointed to only find rows and rows of plants growing under lights. A longtime friend of mine's dad was showing me pics of a car he was restoring. He accidentally pulled up nude pics of my friend's mom instead. He looked awkward for a minute. He never said anything and then just started looking at car pics like it never happened. Spoiler alert. I learned at 6 that Santa was not really bringing me presents when I had my door cracked open on Christmas Eve and saw my dad and my cat wrestling with a present that my dad was trying in vain to get out of my cat's clutches. The scratches down his arm the next morning confirmed that it wasn't a dream. Sassy never took it from anyone. Wow, never met a man named Sassy. My 6-year-old cousin asked me if I wanted some chewing gum. I said sure, if she has some. She then goes to her mother's purse and takes out 2 packages of condoms and asks me, "What do you want, strawberries or banana?" Next thing I know, I'm shoving Durex packages in her mother's purse saying we should firstly ask your mom before going through her things. So the kid doesn't stop here. She takes the purse, goes in the kitchen where all the family was reunited and asked her mother, "Mom, can I have some gum?" Her mom says she doesn't have any. The freaking girl takes the condoms out of the purse and says, "Sure you do, I want the strawberries ones please." Imagine her mother's embarrassment. I saw an employee's check stub that he dropped. He had been there for a month and was making what I made after my first year and was not a very good worker. I got a raise. I was bartending and it was slow. I was putting away glasses by the only 2 people sitting at the bar. They seemed a new couple, very touchy, etc. At some point I noticed that she was wearing a wedding ring and he was not. Right as the music died down between songs, he turned to her and said, "You know, they're going to ask you where you were when he drowned." Noped out of there real darn quick. This was 5 years ago now, but from what I remember they definitely knew I heard them. I was like 2 feet away. I froze for a second and then turned and went straight into the kitchen. I was freaking out with the kitchen staff and trying to figure out what to do. When I came back out they had paid cash and left. I debated calling the police, but had no other info besides what I thought I heard. I freaked out for a few days. Never heard anything about anyone drowning. I didn't keep it a secret, either. I have told this story a lot. And this was a small town where people have nothing better to do than talk, so if there was a scandal, it was common knowledge what I had heard. About 9 years ago, there were a couple of notes scattered across the computer desk in my parents' study. I happened to read them because words are in front of my face. What am I gonna do? They were notes my parents had written each other instead of just talking to each other. Because my dad had slept with 14 hookers. When I was little, my father set a password on a computer I was using for playing games. I wanted him to type the password while I was away, but set a camera to record it. Hid it behind a pile of books. The trick was, the camera back in the days was only able to record for 30 seconds, so I had to call my father and run out of the room, so he could type it as quickly as possible. It stopped filming just as he hit enter. When I was about 5, my mom took me to the bank because she needed something out of the safety deposit box. It was right when they were opening up. They asked us to turn around while they unlocked the vault, but I peeked. According to family law, I went around the rest of the day chanting the numbers of the combination. Some sort of spy level information swap. A couple of years ago I was sitting on a bench in a really busy shopping street just having a drink and just watching people basically. At some point a man and a woman, both dressed really classy, that kinda stood out for me, came walking down the street, both from opposite directions and almost brushed each other when passing by. In a split second I saw the woman passing a note, at least it looked like paper to me, to the man. They never looked at each other, didn't slow down their pace, changed posture, facial expression or anything, just walked straight ahead on their way casually. Just when they passed each other she slipped a note in his hands, really fast and stealthy. Whatever it was pretty obvious that those two weren't meant to be seen together. The meeting was pre-arranged deliberately on a really busy spot and whatever they swapped was secret. I'm very sure I wasn't supposed to have seen that, and I probably was the only person who saw that. What's something you saw that you were definitely not supposed to see? Leave it in the comments below.